welcome to Tuesday, April 9th, and Dorian Guitar Works Backstage.
A guided
look
at
the life experiences and ways and means of the guitarist journey.
We always threw that out.
And well, anyone who's watching regularly knows that, so it's all good.
Like, you think we would come up with an easier tagline for ourselves to say.
Because it gives us an opportunity to show that we can use semicolons and capitalization and punctuation correctly.
Not the full colon, but
the full colon. Yeah, we're not
we're
not going full colon. Only the semicolon. I'm Matt.
I'm Brian. Welcome.
And welcome. So a month ago we had Mike Vodova.
Yeah.
And
that was fun.
That was a really good show. Got some really good, really short clips too about, ideas that it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing, whether you're producing music, whether you're building something, no matter what you're doing, this idea of perfection and whatever.
Right.
Just right.
If you're going after perfection, then you're never going to reach your goal of having a finished product, because there's always going to be something. Right.
Absolutely. I think that Mike's interview really tees up this interview that we have today, and I'm really excited. We're going to jump right over to our guest, and then we'll cover housekeeping and stuff later on, because our guest is coming to us from 2 time zones later, and we are live, even if you're catching this at a different day. Someone incredibly, I consider myself incredibly fortunate to have made the connection with this person. Rewinding the tape back to the days where we were all sitting in our houses and not allowed to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. And we musicians would either make music or watch music or do whatever. And I remember the day that I popped on to Instagram and saw this guy playing, and I'd never seen him before, but I knew that, wow. And I didn't follow right away. I was just, whatever, feeling bad for myself, COVID, yada, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. He hit my feed a few more times, and I was like, oh, I got to follow this guy. I was inspired by this player for a very long time. Kept my desire to keep playing, kept my desire to keep challenging myself and focusing on that this was all going to get better.
Yeah.
And then, out of sheer coincidence, I found out that I was going to be taking a trip to Chicago, and this guy actually happened to work at Chicago Music Exchange.
Uh-huh.
So I reached out.
How fortuitous.
I reached out to this gentleman, and he agreed to meet me at the store. And so I want to introduce to everybody Mr. Nathaniel Murphy.
Hi,
Welcome
Nathaniel.
to the show, sir.
Welcome.
How's it going? Thanks for the very kind words there, I got.
No, thank you for making the time. Tuesday evening, 9:30. I'm sure there's better. I'm sure there's music that you should actually be going and listening to, but you're hanging out with us schmoes over here. So
I'm happy. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Right on. So how have things been going for you lately? It's I guess I saw you back last October. And you were a busy man then, and and what's I can't imagine that's gotten less busy.
No, definitely not less busy. It's just much of the same, really. Just doing, as you mentioned, I work at Chicago Music Exchange, so just doing lots and lots of demos and videos, which is cool. I get to play guitars that I could only dream of being able to afford one day. Some really cool vintage ones. I get to have a lot of fun playing them, so I'm very fortunate. But yeah, just been busy doing that, and the odd little gig here and there, and the odd little bit of session work, and hopefully I want to get into recording some stuff soon as well.
Right on.
Can you divulge any of that session work, who you've been working with?
Well, it's just very minimal, to be quite honest. It's few and far between, unfortunately. I'd have no problem telling you, who it was if it was anyone big or anything, but it's not. I wish I had, more crazy, gossip for you, but it's few and far between, unfortunately, at the moment.
Well, that's all good.
Yeah. I feel like it's the same way for all of us. So.
Yeah.
We do have a couple of folks in the chat. Jimmy James.
Oh, and we've got our good friends Iron Bimmy back. This as our show is like if we made Wayne's World into a Lipitor commercial. Is that the cholesterol? Like, I think. How's your cholesterol doing, bud?
It's actually really good.
Yeah,
Thanks
absolutely.
for asking. Now that we're all in our 40s, right?
That's right. That's right.
Session.
So when we popped out to Chicago, we talked for a little bit, and I was thinking about how do I want to arrange my thoughts in this interview, and I ultimately decided that I just wanted to chat. But one of the first things that I thought aligned with our show and talking about the journey, we had a little chat about this big monstrous conversation about imposter syndrome. And I had obviously gone through some mindset changes to allow myself to try to live up to what I thought I should be doing, even regardless of whether or not I felt like I belonged there. And you shared with me that that's something that you also deal with from time to time, which floored me. I sat with that thought for days, and I don't know if you had anything to share about that, about your feelings about your playing and being on the internet and reactions and likes and how you are with that.
Yeah. I mean, the kind of reactions and likes from people, that's, it's mind-boggling, and it's very humbling at the same time. The fact that people will take the time to watch your videos and leave a lovely comment saying how much they like my videos and whatnot. I mean, to me, it's incredibly humbling, and I'll try and reply to as many, or if not all, the comments that I can. But I mean, if you were to tell me that even 10 years ago that people would be watching your videos and leaving amazing comments, I'd have thought you were crazy, let alone if you were to tell me that when I was 13, because I've often said this. I remember being on the edge of my bed in Manchester, like after about 3 weeks playing the guitar, in tears. I couldn't change from a E minor to a C major. I thought, that's it. So if you were to tell me back then about that, I never would have believed you. So it is very humbling. And in regards to the imposter syndrome, I don't know. I don't know if there's times where I wonder if that'll ever kind of go away, because I mean, I'll see so many amazing players out there, and I get inspired by it, and I want to do this, and I want to do what that person's doing. I want to do what that person is doing. So there's an awful lot to be inspired by, and to make you work and practice, but it can get overwhelming at times. And then there's times where, like you said, that imposter syndrome kicks in. It's like, why am I playing that same lick that I played 2 days ago?
Right.
Or
right.
why am I just regurgitating licks that you've already done? But then you think, you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. Some of the greatest players that you listened to growing up, or that who inspired you, they have their own set of licks. It's good enough for them. It's okay for you to have a set of licks. If you were to put on, a Joe Pass record without knowing it was him, you think, oh wait, that sounds like Joe Pass, or maybe a Hendrix. It could be like, oh, that's definitely Hendrix's licks, or Slash's, or Satriano, whoever. Do you know what I mean? So I'm coming to terms with little things like that. It's okay to have your own little licks. And then in regards to posting videos with the imposter thing, sometimes you wonder. Well, sometimes I wonder personally, is this good enough? Is this good enough for people? Are they? It's almost like it's got to a point where, no, it's not bad, but I'm just saying, it's almost like you have to try and outdo yourself in every video, and you can't keep going forever with that. So lately, there's a few videos where it's just nice and simple. I've just been kind of strumming around chords, but putting in a little bit of picking here and there. But then doing the odd video where it's a little bit more complex, a little bit more technical. So at the end of the day, in terms of posting videos, I think it's just about enjoying it, just having fun. And if 10 people like the video, then I'm delighted. Sorry for such a long-winded answer.
No, I appreciate it. Honestly, it's probably one of the more meaningful things that I think we can talk about on this show, because it's probably the most relatable. It really doesn't matter if you just picked up the guitar, or even if you don't play guitar. If you're just Googling and you come across this on YouTube and you're struggling with the idea that, am I good enough to do anything? Am I good enough to be a snowboarder? The answer is, do you love it, and do you want to do it? Then you belong in that arena.
Mm-hmm.
I was having this conversation with our good friend Tony Bennington just today. I did a bunch of work for him recently, and it's funny. I've seen him like 3 days in a row, and in all 3 days, I've come to him in completely different mindsets. I was like on top of the world on one day, and then the next day I was just like in work mode, and today I was just, dude, I don't know what I'm doing here. And I realized that that's the wave, because it's for me, I think it's sort of a delicate balance between not being complacent, but also recognizing that, like you've got to challenge yourself to level up, and to do something harder than you did before. But you also have to be comfortable in your own skin at the same time. But if you spend too long in any one of those states, you'll be destructive. You'll either be so complacent that you won't keep trying, or you'll desire such high results that you'll self-destruct because nothing you do is ever good enough. And you kind of have to be able to surf in there, And he sat and he's like, dude, do you realize that what you're trying to do, you're holding yourself to expectations of somebody who's been doing this for like 10 or 15 years, and what we were talking about specifically was just this business that I'm starting. He's like, you're a year and a half, 2 years into it. Yeah. He's like, I think you might need to be a little kinder on yourself.
Maybe lower those expectations just a notch.
Yeah. But to hear, to be real, and, to hear somebody like you talk about struggling with the same thing that the average player also struggles with, it really levels that playing field, and I think creates a space that will take somebody who might be on the edge of thinking about quitting or worse, and saying, no, I'm gonna stay in the game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in regards to someone who might be thinking about quitting, don't it's easy for me to say that, but I remember, like I said, I was in tears, and I stuck with it, and it has been life-changing for me. It could be life-changing for someone else. It literally will change the course of your life. Best thing I ever did. But bear in mind, I always wanted to be a drummer. But
I love it whenever I hear that. I always wanted to be a drummer.
We could never afford a drum kit. We didn't really have the space in the house either, to be honest. But best thing I ever did was get a guitar. Don't get me wrong, there's been some very frustrating times, and there will always be frustrating times.
Yeah.
But I think the positive things is the joy that it'll bring you, whether it's learning something by ear and being proud of yourself, or, getting together with other people and just feeding off each other. There's so much joy to be had for, the majority of your life. I mean, again, without getting too long-winded, think about a football player or soccer player. They'll get to a certain age where it's like, I can't do it anymore. My legs have just given up. I can't do it. Whereas I'll take guitarists, for example. If you're playing from the age of 10, you could be playing, up to you're 8 years old. You might not be as quick or anything, but do you know what I mean? You could still be playing to a very high level for, the vast majority of your life. I'm kind of rambling, but I think you know what I mean.
Oh, absolutely. No, it's fun to also kind of explore the conversations about folks that start late in life. I have folks that are 50 or 60 years old and say, I always wanted to play guitar and I never picked one up. And it's like, I mean, do you want me to sit down and give you all the examples that I personally know of people that have picked up the guitar in their mid-50s and found joy learning how to do it then? I mean, you might not be as limber as the 8-year-old, but give it a shot. What do you have to lose?
Oh, yeah.
We do have a comment from Jimmy James.
Oh yeah.
When you were speaking about your licks, he'd like to hear some. I'm not sure if we got anything prepared.
We don't have an audio interface, so I think we might actually. Well, unless you're feeling up for it, but we don't know what it's going to sound like.
Yeah.
But we could just, we can patch in some videos later too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to apologize to James. It's unfortunately it's not crazy late. It's just my neighbors are a little bit funny.
Right. Nathaniel apologizes to no one. We don't have that on this show.
I would love, by all means, share some videos, and I'll try and send some links. Neighbors will complain, unfortunately.
And James has continued to mention that it's great to hear from an actual session guitarist. It's really impressive. So
yeah.
Hats off to you, sir.
Cool to hear that.
Yes, thank you for being here. And that's actually, it is something that, as a startup podcast, it's difficult to, you got to build that reputation before people are willing to, come on. So
yeah,
that's on us. We can do better, and we're trying to.
But,
so.
and we're still having a great conversation with a great guitar player. So.
Well, thank you very much.
So you mentioned that you started off wanting to be a drummer. But I want to back up further than that, because I learned in October when we were speaking that you didn't actually come to the States necessarily to do music specifically. You came over here to do, you were playing football, playing soccer, right?
I was a soccer coach, yeah.
Right.
I was a soccer coach. Nice. I mean, so back in Manchester, where I grew up, I was teaching guitar, but I was also coaching a bit of soccer as well.
Mm-hmm.
And a mate of mine from England, he moved over to Chicago coaching soccer. And he said, look, I can get you a job over here doing that if you wanted to try it. And I was like, yeah, why not? I'll do that. And plus, the number one thing for me has always been guitar, even at that point. So I thought, I'm going to have a lot more opportunity. With respect, I'll have a lot more opportunities in Chicago/America than I will in Manchester, to be quite honest. So I was coaching soccer here, but I've been here for 12 years now. And I was coaching soccer here for about 9.5 years, before guitar completely took over. Now, I was doing little bits here and there, and I was doing videos for CME, for the past maybe 5 years or so. But for the past 3 years, I've been, full-time guitarist.
That's very cool.
Right on.
So what is your official title at CME? Because I know I could go to the webpage and look it up, but I remember like when people are like, so what's he do? And I'm like, he's like the guy that plays the stuff, because like he's going to sell guitars better than any ad will.
Funny enough, it was quite funny because they wanted to get me like they wanted to put my name on the website.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to get me, like business cards. And it was this topic came up. It was like, well, what do you do? What are we going to label you?
What would you say you do here?
I think, I can't find one of my cards at the moment, but I think it's actually technically video brand specialist. What that means, I have no idea, because I just said, why don't you just put demo guy, or
Nathaniel, that title makes it sound like you're good with technology. Video brand guy.
I haven't got a clue what that means.
They probably don't either.
No idea. So technically, all I do at CME, I'm not a salesperson per se. I don't go behind the counter and try and sell. It's just I'll get a schedule of disc guitars in the shop, and essentially it's right. We've got a video on Tuesday with a 59 burst. Do your thing. So obviously I'll prepare, or it could be a telecast, it could be God knows what. So essentially I just play guitar there doing demos, and I am very thankful for it. I'm very fortunate for it that I get to do that.
I think that's what you put under Nathaniel Murphy on the card. I just play guitar.
I just play guitar.
I just play guitar.
So you play a little bit of everything then. You're style-wise, you're probably all over the map based on the guitar you're playing, based on the amp you're demoing, whatever, right?
Yeah. So, that's the thing. It helps to have. I like to, attempt different styles, I should say. I do really enjoy that. And that certainly helps with demoing guitars. Whether it's an L5 guitar that comes in, right? I'll play a little bit of this. Maybe it's just a 50s Strat, right? Well, I'm going to play a little bit of such and such on that, and 80s Les Paul custom, whatever. So it's fun, kind of preparing for the videos. It can get tough, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I like to be prepared and show them off as best as I can.
When so I felt a little weird reaching out, before we had some chance to get to know each other. I felt a little odd reaching out to this guy that had, puts a video out and has 250,000 likes on it and saying, "Hey, I'm going to be in Chicago. Do you have 5 minutes? Because I just like to shake your hand and say thank you, because I really appreciate it. And then I'm going to go away and you'll never hear from me again." And he's like, "Absolutely, sure." And I didn't. We go to Chicago. We go to the store, and we're sitting around in the middle of the store on the main floor. There's like a bunch of leather couches that are sitting around, some really nice Gibsons, or I should say the Gibsons are sitting around the couches. I don't know. But I see him come up through the front door, and he still has to, everyone in the store, he still has to say hi to everybody who wants to stop him on the way. And I'm like, I feel like a jerk, because now I realize I've made him come into the store. It's like we should have just met at a coffee shop and kept it, under the radar. But he's actually come out. Now he has to deal with all this. You're Nathaniel. And he makes his way over to us, and he's such a gentleman. And he's like, "So you want to go downstairs and see the production room?" I'm like, "No, not at all. We're not.
Yes, please.
We're not interested in this."
Yeah.
So my wife Bethany and I and our friend Tom, who lives in Chicago, and we were just out there for a wedding, and I'd met Tom in wedding number one of two of the same wedding, which is a long story. But I had met him in Italy.
This is the
Italy 2 months prior, and then we went to the wedding ceremony number 2, which was in Chicago. So I've known this guy for all of 2 months. I was like, "You're a musician. Why don't you come with us?" He's like, "Okay." So he comes out.
Don't ask him twice.
Yeah, and he hands me. And anyway, fast forward to Nathaniel handing me the B bender, which is just. And I've seen you play Kashmir on this thing, and I'm like, that's cool. You play it.
Yeah.
What's your? What's that?
I was going to say, yes, it's a cool guitar that now lives at the shop, thankfully.
Yeah, and then there was one that was down there. Oh, it was just, we've got pictures, and I should go back and look at them. But I think you handed me one of the oldest production Gibsons that was like a 1914 or something. It was.
Oh yeah.
It was. I got my dates all wrong here, but.
James is asking.
James, yeah. What is the
questions.
most erroneous thing that has ever happened during a session?
Erroneous. I mean, what does erroneous mean again?
The biggest error that's ever happened. I would say. I mean, it could be you or crew or anything else. Guitar breaking, strings popping.
Yeah, nothing crazy. I mean, the worst things that have happened in my experience is, well, the most frustrating sometimes has been one of the recent ones I was doing. It wasn't necessarily a session. It was actually, I was doing some recording. Well, I suppose it was a session. I did an arrangement of a Bruce Springsteen song, and it was in a wacky tuning. The string was all the way down to an F sharp. And I was doing it on a telly, where, let me see, it's got the 3 saddles, I think. Yeah, so kind of like that, with where there's 2 on the one saddle. And with the B string, I had to change the B string to another G string to accommodate the tension.
Yep.
And the problem with that is the intonation was
right.
Just not there.
The 3 saddle tellies are hard enough to keep intonated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was so frustrating in that sense. So it's little things like that. And to be honest, I had to do it on a completely different guitar. I had to get a different guitar up. Completely different. So it's little things like that. It's not nothing crazy has happened. Obviously, snap strings here and there, or you could have pedals that kind of, you know, go a little bit weary on you. But
Yeah.
yeah, nothing crazy
No
or
one's
too
busted in.
erroneous.
No one's busted in or
Yeah, yeah.
anything and interrupted the session while you're in the middle of a
No,
track
no,
or
no,
anything like that.
no, nothing. Not in my time anyway.
That's
But
good.
hopefully in the future something cool like that might happen. You know.
James gets credit for an almost genius move though, because he almost got Nathaniel to play.
Almost.
He picked up the guitar.
Picked up the
Listen,
guitar.
I mean, all you're going to be able to hear is an unplugged telecast,
Little
which
plink,
isn't.
plink, plink.
I mean, you know, you
Can't
probably
even
can't
hear
hear
Actually,
that.
we can't even hear it. So like it's the biggest tease. It's
See the fingers
we-
moving, but we can't hear the
You
noise.
can actually say we watched Matt and Brian interview Nathaniel and we saw him play.
That's
We
right.
did not hear him play.
So James, sorry you couldn't hear the licks, but you saw him.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? The lick I just played there, I was particularly proud of
He
it.
could have played anything. I mean, I could have played there, and
You all
You,
missed out.
me, I could have played there.
oh my
I'm gonna have to
gosh,
remember that one. I feel bad now about not being able to play. Again, I'm so sorry. Apologies, the neighbors.
I'm telling you.
No, that's perfect. You're
You
perfectly
apologized 3 times. We shut it off because you.
It's like Beetlejuice. You can't say it 3 times.
Somebody send in the
Yeah.
dinosaur.
Iron Bimmy.
There we go.
Yep.
Iron Bimmy mentioned that interrupted sessions are probably considered to be erroneous. Yes,
Yeah.
that would be very, very problematic at the very least.
Yeah.
So you were mentioning to me before we went live that it's actually a bit of a struggle to find gigs here and there,
Even in Chicago, huh?
or
Well,
or maybe clarify. But I thought it was an interesting point.
So what I mean by that is the type of gig I'm looking for. I would love to be someone's guitar player out on the road with them.
Okay.
You know, as their sideman, so to speak. You know, I've got a lot of friends who do that.
Yeah.
Where they'll literally, you know, they'll be playing Madison Square Garden one night with someone. You know, they'll be touring the country, touring the world essentially.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I've got mates who do that. They'll play Lollapalooza. They'll play all over the place. They'll play to thousands of people every night, playing their instrument, you know, and getting to see the world.
Yeah.
That's all I want. That's all I want. You know, I know you have to be good for it. But that is.
Well, you check the box. You know.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm trying. So I mean, I really hope one day I get the opportunity to do that. You know, I'd love just a chance for an audition. You know, to do something like that. And I get that. You know, there's criteria. You know, do you fit the band? You know, you got to look good. You know, you got to have a certain look sometimes for certain bands and certain styles. And I get that. That's fine. You know, there's that part of it too. But you know. Hopefully I'll get it at some point.
Yeah.
So if maybe you can put in a good word for me, you know?
See what
Yes.
I can do. When I meet somebody that needs it.
I haven't had the opportunity to tour in the way that the real musicians tour. But I have had, a couple short stints, and they were probably the most fun I've ever had. It's just, It is a great time to go do your thing, and to meet good people, and to come away with amazing stories and have lived. So
yeah.
And if
that's all I want.
If you ever land
That's all I
that,
want.
I know a guy who changes strings really fast. So have your own side guy. Yeah.
There we go.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. I'm wearing Bacchus t-shirt right now. The lead singer guitarist from Bacchus is on the road most of the year. Typically, as guitar tech, he doesn't actually play on tour, but he's been with some pretty major bands and stuff. And he's told some stories. I know that he'd rather be on stage, right? But it's still a good time out on the road.
Oh, major bands.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. We got to do that. He got it.
Well, Jeff does. I don't know how he got the gigs that he's gotten, but he's toured the world with some pretty impressive people. So he's been very, very fortunate. So maybe I'll put in a good word.
There we go. There we go. Cheers, Brian.
So I know you like Tellys, and I know you like Gibsons, because I remember when you had that whole wall of Les Pauls recently down in the studio. But you see a lot of instruments, and I'm sure you see one-offs, and I'm sure you see this was owned by so-and-so, and I know that you got to play that maple and blue dual bucker from Ty at Shock the Fox. Actually, is that your guitar, or did he just let you demo that for a bit?
No, that's mine.
That's yours. Yeah. So you play from both. You've got boutique builds in there, and all the names that we all know, and the entire line of history from modern to conception of the electric guitar. What grabs your attention the most when it comes to picking up a guitar?
I mean, it's funny. Like I am drawn to the look of a guitar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think we all are. But
it's good to admit that, because I mean, there's a reason they look different.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to look cool.
Yeah, right.
You know,
yeah.
You're not going to buy a car if it looks shit.
Right.
I don't. You know, sorry for this.
No.
But yeah. In terms of now, obviously, I've been fortunate enough to pick up a lot of guitars, and a lot of people will go on about, you know, the size of the necks. And to be brutally honest, it has been incredibly rare where I've noticed how big or thin a neck is. I can literally count 3 times ever.
Okay.
So obviously there's the comfort type of thing. So there was a Danny Gatton signature telly once in the shop. It was a used one, and the neck was enormous. You know when people say, oh, like a baseball bat, that literally was. It was like, this is crazy.
Like they actually got a bat and routed a channel for it. They didn't even need a truss rod. You had a bat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was a 335 or 355 in the shop recently as well, and that had a huge neck, and I noticed it. And again, it takes an awful lot. And now I've got small hands, by the way, you know, so it's for me to notice it is quite strange, I think, anyway. So the neck type of thing. Is it comfortable to play, you know? And then there's the pickup kind of things. Obviously, I love humbuckers, but I love single cord. Like I said, I'm a big telly fan.
Yeah.
I love being able to have that twang in the bridge. And then I love... now, ideally, I would love to have a telly that has a humbucker in the neck. I don't own at the moment, but I would love to someday, you know, have a telly with a humbucker in the neck, you know, to get the really nice kind of jazzy tones.
I think we just added a build to my 2024 schedule.
There you go. Do it.
There we go.
Of course, Ty at Shock the Fox is sitting out there too right now going, done.
Telecaster with humbucker in.
Yeah. I have yet to meet him. I love watching his content. He is so incredibly skilled, and he's such... Yeah. I tried to reach out to him to schedule some time when I was in Chicago too, but it was just, there was so much going on. But he is a brilliant, I don't want to call him an artisan. Maybe he is, but he approaches guitar building almost like I would say somebody approaches painting, you know, like every little detail, you know, and he's really good with being able to post it on social too. Like his content is on point, and his building is on point, and the way he responds to trolls is on point, and it's just, and I really appreciate that guy, and I don't know him at all, but I've sent him a few messages. I'm like, you teach so much, thank you.
Yeah,
he's rad.
Yeah, I mean, I still can't believe, you know, he contacted me, and then I couldn't meet up with him at some point or something, but then we got in contact again. And for him to, you know, to go to all that effort and, you know, to essentially, you know, give me one of his guitars that he's put hours and hours and hours of hard work into.
Yeah.
For someone to do that for me, again, there's part of you that feels guilty, you know, there's that imposter thing again.
Yeah.
It's like, why is someone doing this for me, you know? So that is there. But just to appreciate, like, someone doing that is it's incredible. And I'm glad you brought up the trolls kind of thing, because I love watching him reply
They're
to the
there. They're
trolls.
there. They're yeah. Like you have to develop.
And
You have to develop a thick skin. But of course, that isn't that isn't like an armor that you throw on. You have to take it off too. You know,
yeah,
like
exactly.
if you walk around your entire life with thick skin, then you don't connect. And you have to, but when you get caught with your armor off, man, it that like actually may have been where I was this morning, like when I met up with Tony and I was like in that place where I was just like, I think I got caught with my armor off for a minute, you know, and it took me a minute to pull the arrow out of my back and then you're just like, okay, no, it's just a wound, it'll heal, put the armor back on, go out and do it, because trolls are trolls and they're everywhere, and everyone's got a TikTok account and only like 5% of them are doing anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but it is funny that he calls them out. You know, it's almost tongue in cheek as well.
True.
Not all of them,
Right.
but it's funny, and you know, it's one of those things with social media, and you know, I'll say it in the guitar world specifically as well. Like, it's obviously there's a lot of, you know, support and great guitar players out there who, you know, complement each other, but you get a lot of people who just feel the need to, you know, shit on you. You know, I've been lucky enough, you know, you get it the odd time, of course, but you'll see some people's posts and you'll see some comments that people leave. It's like, pretty sure you could just scroll past that without saying that you thought such and such of it.
Yeah.
That, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Personally, I've never felt the need. If there was something I didn't like, or if there's something where a person is playing and, you know, maybe did a wrong note, or maybe they're just learning or something like that, and then someone will write, you know, a nasty, you know, some of them can be quite nasty. It's like, well, I don't understand why you feel the need to get that off your chest. What do you gain by doing that?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like putting out good energy or putting out bad energy, they both take effort.
Yeah.
Like, and I was talking about that the other day, because it was just like, it literally takes no energy to just walk on by, but it takes just as much energy to be a dick as it does to be constructive. And if you like, I don't know, man, maybe you have so much energy you need to spread it across the spectrum, right? So.
Who knows? It kind of reminds me. I think Ricky Gervais did a joke once. I can't remember it verbatim now, but it was. He's imagined like he's walking through the street and he sees on the side of a lamppost guitar lessons and a phone number, and you know, he's off and he brings it and he says to the guitarist, I think it's like something along the lines of, "Well, I don't like the guitar. I don't want guitar lessons," and that's it. That was part of the joke. You know, just a ridiculous thing, but that's his
Call
way
the
of
number to
thinking.
say that you specifically don't want. Yeah. No, that's
Yeah, you know, it's one of those. Obviously, he did a hell of a lot better than I did. But it's just an interesting thought, you know. I don't know. Then again, you're entitled to your opinion and say things. But I've seen guitar players and know some of them personally who have, you know, they've lost all their confidence in terms of posting stuff online, because it's like some of the hateful comments that, you know, that can come towards you. You know? It's a shame.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like everybody thinks that they know everything sometimes, and they want to give you all the constructive criticism without the construction, right? Without being constructive.
Yeah.
In order to teach you something, but it's not constructive at all. It just tears people down. So
it can do, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm rapidly trying to get back to the thought that I had that I should have written down 5 minutes ago. So, oops. We'll cut that part out.
Sorry, that was probably me rambling.
No.
Well, I know. We earlier we were talking about right before going on live. We were talking about heavy guitars, and I'm not talking about like the kind of guitars I like to listen to, like heavy.
Oh,
but like holding on to a physically heavy guitar.
You actually brought me back. No, we were talking. Well, when we were talking about Ty bringing the guitar into Chicago Music Exchange and Imposter Syndrome, and so I remember. He posted like some selfie video of him walking the guitar into Chicago Music Exchange, and his line was something like, time to go see what they think of it, or time to take one of these builds into the real world or something, and it was just like,
I kind of feel like that's how you were with that.
Yeah, no,
that
he
Paduk,
he
giant, heavy.
that was an interesting moment for me, because I could feel that. Like, I was, again, never met this guy, like his Instagram channel, like what he's building, like that he's got an association with CME. And I'm like, I am feeling this, and I am proud of you, and I really hope they love it, because it sure looks like it wails, and and obviously it does. But yeah, no, I remember I took the Behemoth to my first guitar show. So that is this one. I can't.
That's one right over my head.
That's the one that's £1 million. And then the two, that one and that one, are mine. And I play this one in the metal band, and I play this one in the more poppy band. This is a custom order for it's already bought and paid for, but the dude lives in San Diego, and he doesn't want me to fly it to him, and he is supposed to come up to Olympia at some point. So that's a customer guitar that I get to play periodically. But that one is a prototype of one of my guitar building mentors.
Yeah.
And
a good friend.
And a good friend now, John Beeson at Wood Spirit Guitars. And at one of the first guitar shows, when I met him, he had it was for sale. I was like, who buys a prototype? I bought a prototype. But I like it because it tells a story. And then I bought this guitar and then started building my own. And the first one, he said, go hand that to the guy who taught me. And this is all happening so fast, and it's just imposter syndrome. And so there's this guy who I now know who is, taught me how to build a neck. But I hand him my first guitar body build for the first time. And he was a total gentleman. He played it. And then he complained about his back because it was too heavy. But those moments where you just don't feel like you're supposed to be there, but you walk through the door anyway.
Yep.
And it's just such a reoccurring theme that I appreciate being able to have that conversation with somebody who's doing it. So Jimmy James says Matt. And I'm like, yes.
But with one T.
I'm on the floor. I'm on the floor. Yeah.
It's a guy with no arms and no legs on the floor.
So a telly with a bucker in the neck.
My back.
Yeah. I mean, Nathaniel, that doesn't seem like that's a hard thing to acquire when you're in a store.
Yeah. It's funny. I was looking at one today in the shop.
Yeah.
There's a nice sunburst maple neck, 6-piece saddles as well.
Good.
So I was like,
that's helpful.
Well, I mean, last thing I need is another guitar because my girlfriend will kill me.
Well, yeah.
At that point,
I mean,
maybe.
Well, how many do you have?
I don't know.
If you have so many, you can't count.
It's
maybe. Yeah,
maybe. It's not one of those things I don't know in a cocky type of sense. It's just I've been fortunate enough where I'll get gifted a couple here and there. And obviously, I've bought myself. I mean, at the moment, if I was to count here in the apartment now, I am moving house soon, so something could elsewhere at the moment. But there's
he's over 10.
There's 11 here within this vicinity here. So I mean, and the apartment I live in is 900 square foot, so it's only small.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well,
but if I find the right one, I'll get it.
Yeah.
The trick that I learned, and I say this openly as a person whose spouse is probably watching the podcast as we speak, but it's a lot easier to get the guitars into the house when you're buying the wood. Like I just sneak raw materials into the house and I go downstairs and boom,
there's a guitar.
But I have the same issue. How many guitars do you have, Mike? Dude, I know that it would take me a full 3 days to restring them.
There you go.
I have 3.
Good for you.
My Explorer,
that's actually
my Fender acoustic, and my P bass.
I want to work back. I want to work back to that point honestly.
I want another one though.
Okay. Well, I know a guy.
I want one of those half hollows, juniors.
Yeah.
If I
Why
only
not?
had
Yeah.
the extra cash.
Well, what projects do you have that are going on right now outside of session work and CME? Like, what's 2024 look like for you?
Well, there's a couple of things. So one is I keep getting well, a lot of people ask me, is there anywhere to listen to a lot of my arrangements and things like that. So I'd like to get in the studio as soon as possible to record a lot of them, particularly like the Beatles ones and things like that. So I'm working on that at the moment. I can't give a time frame of when that'll be out or whatnot, and but I'm tempted to do almost like a separate Beatles like mini EP or mini album of
Yeah.
arrangements that I've done, and maybe another one of just some popular songs that I've arranged.
Yeah.
I'd like to do some instrumental guitar in the future again. It's not I wouldn't of originals, that is, instrumental originals. That isn't high on my list of priorities, to be honest. But what I would love to do is do like full band stuff. Just my own originals, but full band. Bass, guitar, drums, the whole lot. Potentially singing. Who knows?
Would you like in a band situation? Would you? This is a multifaceted question because your playing style that you're known for, is this really cool hybrid of being able to walk bass lines, comp chord structure, play chord melodies. At one point I found myself describing it as you're playing with both hands, but I feel like then you picture a guy like Stanley Jordan, and it's like you don't play it like a piano, you almost play the guitar like a drum set. You've got so many different polyrhythms going on that are all keeping a different melody. And so I guess the first question is like, how did you develop that? And two, is that stylistically where you would go with a band, or would you play more traditional type stuff?
He did want to be a drummer.
He did want to be a drummer. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So part one of the question was
like just stylistically, how did that evolve?
Yeah. So, well, I suppose so. I didn't really, I never really used to sing. When I was playing in my teens and whatnot. No, a lot of players don't. But I kind of got into like solo guitar playing, accompaniment. So I'd find people like Chet Atkins, and then I'd find such and such, and this player and that player. And I remember seeing one video in particular, Tuck Andrus doing a version of "Man in the Mirror," and it was like, oh wow, I didn't know you could do that on a guitar.
Right.
I was blown away in the bass line and the whole lot. So that was very cool. So I kind of took off in that tangent for a while, doing all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, well, I mean that kind of stuff has been going on for a long time, arguably. Again, I mentioned Joe Pass earlier, and a lot of jazz players, going back years and years and decades, that they'd be doing full arrangement of standards and things like that, way better than I could dream of doing, and that's so inspiring. And then part two, no, I if for me doing like full band kind of stuff, it would be, I don't want to say completely different, but it would be, I wouldn't need to do the bass part, and I wouldn't need to do this part. So it'd be like I'd love to just do a straight up kind of rock and roll band type of,
get back to shredding.
Yeah. A few little solos here and there. So I really would like to get around to that, because I have a lot of ideas and riffs and melodies that I've had over the years, some even from my teens, up to now, that I've just never really got around to recording. I've remembered them, but I would like to, get a full band together and do it. But it's the fear of, dare I say, failure, to go to all that effort of ideas. You think of, like in my mind, I think, there could be something here. These are pretty good ideas, And I suppose who's ever released their music has had that same thought, But then the part of me is like, well, what if no one likes it? That imposter thing again. It's like, I don't know. We actually maybe don't embarrass yourself, but that is it's such a stupid mindset to have, because You just don't know, and it's just have fun and do it.
It's one of those things that, like, I find when I am dealing with it myself, I come back to that word. I come back to stupid. This feels stupid. Why? It's a stupid mindset to have when you're watching somebody discuss their own imposter syndrome. You can't even relate it back to that word just because you also feel it. Like, it's like, no, it's so goddamn right there in your face. It's the devil, man. It's always, it's like, it's whispering in your ear. It's always trying to cast doubt. And it's just like, it's an epic battle that you're always fighting. No, I don't know. It's funny because, like, if anyone listening to this who thankfully doesn't deal with it or whatever, or they're in that spot where they're riding high on it, like, why do we harp on this? Well, because when you're in it, you're in it, and I think that there's value in helping people through it. But no, man, write that album.
Yeah, totally write that album. I gotta say, as a writer myself, that it's one of the things that I still struggle with is not necessarily the songs themselves or putting it on tape or ADAT or whichever mode you're recording onto. We recorded our record on, I think, 2-inch tape, and I think the next one's going to be fully digital. But it's always like when you actually perform the song for the first time live that you wrote, you're like, no one's going to like this, and everybody loves it, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. And so it's you kind of just got to, I don't know, choke it back and go, and if they like it, they like it. If they don't, well, whatever. You wrote the song for yourself more than anything else. And if people like it, then that's a bonus. And I think to myself too of, we had 200 CDs printed up or something like that, maybe 5, I don't know. So very limited for our first album. But some dude in Russia and someone in Finland, like these people all over around the world have heard my voice and my guitar licks that I wrote. So, I mean, it doesn't matter how many. It's just if it affects one person, that can be a win. So we do have some very funny comments coming in too.
Yeah, you have to go back and watch this interview later, Nathaniel, with the live chat happening.
Jimmy James, a professional musician, has a shitload of guitars. Color me surprised. Iron Bimmy, I'm a session vibra slappist. That's good. Jimmy says, choke it back and go. Yep.
Words to live by.
Words to live by. Sorry, I don't always word good. All right.
Mike Vodova on our last podcast said, "Oh, if you write a song that's no good, so what? Oh well, write another one."
Yeah, you just don't play it again.
Just don't play it again.
It's fine.
So
I mean, the band is songs.
Oh yeah. Well, and you think about it, there's not back in the 60s, 70s. After the singles era, right, in the 50s and the early 60s, where everything was a single, you start getting into more albums, full records, sometimes double albums, where you listen to it front to back, and it was amazing, right? We're back to a single era. Even bands and other artists with full albums, you'd be lucky to find 2 or 3 good songs on a full album nowadays, so the single is kind of where we're currently at right now anyway. And I'd love to get back to be able to just listen to a record all the way through. And I don't know what that is, if it's just an overabundance of creativity and writing a whole bunch of stuff and then just being able to pick and choose the best of to put a record together, or if there was just a lot of drugs involved. I don't know what it is, but I feel like we need to get back there.
No, I would agree. Even like I was chatting with a few of the guys at the shop. Like, I miss the days of, an album will come out, and this is obviously before streaming and stuff. So an album would come out. The only way I could get that album, I'd have to get on the bus. I'd have to go into the city centre. I'd go to the CD shop, I'd get it, and you'd look at the cover. So that was cool. You'd look at the back. What's on the back? This is cool. I couldn't listen to it there and then. I had to get home to listen to it first. So I'm on the bus on the way home. I've opened it up. I'm looking through, the album art and the booklet, and I miss that. I sound like an old person. I'm not that old, but I miss.
No, I empathize, man. I worked at Sam Goody Music, and I don't know if Musicland had a division over on the other side of the pond, but it was Sam Goody's part of Musicland, Suncoast Video, all that kind of stuff.
Right, okay.
And they really, I can't remember. It was so long ago. All the new releases were either like Monday nights or Tuesday nights, so that they would be Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning when the shop opened, and those were the nights that we worked extra long to be able to put up the setups, to be able to put out the new CDs and cassettes. There were a couple cassettes left over. No one bought them, but they were there.
Man, 8-tracks are making a comeback,
and there was a buzz. It's like every time there was an album being released, it was like people lining up around the store like Thanksgiving, like to start their Christmas shopping. It's like that was the buzz, and it was all about, did you get the album? Did you get the album? Did you get the album? And then like if you drove down there in your own car, you could pop it right in. But otherwise, you're sitting there on the bus or with your disc man, like shit, my batteries are dead or it's skipping, and I need to get this thing home so you can hear the CD.
Or you got to wait in line at the store at the demo station to be able to listen to the single or whatever if you wanted to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I don't think those days are going to come back though, realistically.
Yeah, probably not. But, album art is definitely it's one of those things too that, was killer. That was a big, that's what a lot of bands got started because of, right? Like, they got big because their album art was really cool, and a lot of people bought it for that reason. Then they listened to it and they're like, oh, okay, this is okay. There are those bands out there, and so it was the whole package. It's the tangible. You can hold it.
You can't say things like the whole package with James, with Jimmy, with Jimmy and Bimmy.
Only if you're going to choke it back.
Only if you're going to choke it back.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the album artwork, because literally 3 or 4 days ago, I think it was Saturday. I was in New York for a few days, and I got to see the Led Zeppelin Physical Graffiti album cover in real life, the actual building in New York.
Yeah.
I'm just stood there. I've almost got goosebumps, because I'm transported immediately to my bedroom in Manchester, opening this album, with that on the front, and now I'm actually looking at the real thing. And I don't know, are people going to experience things like that when there isn't really albums anymore?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm
sure they will.
That's a good question. I guess maybe with videos on YouTube or whatever the preferred method will be at the time, but that's a whole different art form in and of itself.
The connection will be different. It won't necessarily be visual, or it'll be connected to an experience. Like I was here when I streamed it on Spotify for the first time, or I was here when whatever, but it'll be different.
Came
like the
up
connection
in my stream, and I'd never heard of it before.
No, but it's got to be present. I sort of experienced something similar to this. So it's an interesting point, and I don't mean to go off the rails, but I started listening to what was I heard Roy Ziv's music for the first time, and in 2022. But I wasn't quite sure. I didn't remember this. I just know this for a fact because whatever. And when I started going back and listening to his album that he put out in 2021, I immediately started having flashbacks to Mexico, to the trip that I took in November, not realizing that listening to that music around that time had actually associated itself to the things that I was doing at the time.
Right.
So
right.
It's not, it's like it's never going to be as tangible as looking at artwork, but it's there.
Music is always going to be.
It's just it's great. Like it's like the perfume that you smell, or
right.
like scent is the strongest tied memory, but it's all there.
Yeah.
But anyway, Rambling.
Yeah,
I'm
for
going to
sure.
ramble on now. See, you started. I'm going with it.
God, we're stuck on Zeppelin, aren't we?
Yeah.
Ramble on.
Well, cool. So, advice for anyone. Maybe we covered a lot of advice, but if there's anything we haven't covered, if you have any words of wisdom for somebody trying to do their thing and struggling to get better, struggling to find a band, struggling to find their place in the music.
Yeah.
Imagine yourself as that 13-year-old. What would you say?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I still have my struggles. Like we mentioned, I'm still looking for that gig out on the road or something. But I suppose it's never give up. I almost gave up playing the guitar. It
That would have
changed
been
my
a
life.
shame. My
Yeah,
God.
I mean, I don't know what I'd be doing now. Could be doing anything in terms of advice. In terms of like someone actually learning the guitar, one of the biggest like pieces of advice I'd give is learn as much as you can by ear. Transcribe as much as you can. Because now I say that because, in my humble opinion, for what it's worth, I think that is dwindled somewhat over a number of years. In the sense that, let's pretend you've been playing guitar, say 4 or 5 months, or less, or whatever kind of period of time, and there's a song you really want to learn. All you got to do now, go onto YouTube, blah blah blah. Right, I've got it. The tab is there for me. I can, whether it's a YouTube video or just looking at the tab, tab world or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. But what I would suggest is just try and learn it by ear first. It's never been easier to learn an instrument, I would say, because of YouTube and all the teaching platforms that's out there. And you can slow stuff down on YouTube now as well. If there's a really good part that you're struggling with, just slow it down. Now, why do this? Because I think it will improve you so much more as a musician. Again, this is just my personal opinion. Your ear will become so much better. You'll be able to decipher, figure out chords, much better over the years, lines, things like that. Whereas if you simply just go online and someone shows it you, I don't know, will it have the same effect? I'm sure maybe it does, but I would always say someone like transcribe by ear as much as you can, because it is a huge help. And then you can make your own pathways on the neck of the guitar. It could be, oh well, I remember I learned this lick from such and such that I learned by ear. That's I can just move it here now and do the same thing, and things like that. So I would say transcribe as much as you can by ear. I definitely rambled.
No,
Sorry.
no, I agree with that, and not just because you're our guest. I was reminded of that recently because I started playing in this fun little cover band, a tribute band, and it's not the kind of music that I would normally play, and in listening to music, I figured I got to learn 30 songs real fast because we're gonna go out and get these shows. I got to go learn the charts so I can be ready to go. Be really easy to pop open the tabs and just learn them. But I wanted to challenge myself to just listen to the albums. And it surprised me that it reminded me of how I learned when I was 14, 15, before you just popped on and looked at tabs and you had to throw on the album and figure it out by ear. And it surprised me that doing that, because even if you've developed the skill of transcribing by ear, if you challenge yourself to do that outside of the genre that you're familiar with, you have to listen differently too. And I started thinking of these guitar parts as like, oh, there's rhythm and lead. No, dude, there's like so many different layers in here. And when you only got two guitar players that are supposed to cover this very, very well produced album,
which then becomes one guitar player.
Yeah,
don't forget that.
Right. But now you have to learn. Now you're figuring out how to use your ear, so to not only figure out what parts are being played, but then decide which parts are most important for the band.
Right.
to serve the music, and what part am I going to carry in a live scenario? And if you want to take it even further, you can say, well, what's the vibe of the show? If I'm playing to a bunch of people that are really expecting to hear the album, then I want to choose these parts. But if I'm in a really thunderous place and everyone's off the hook and everyone's dancing and it doesn't need to be perfect, then I can explore more. And challenging yourself to listen to the parts outside of what you would normally do will also cause you to grow. So I'm going to ramble too, but I think that's I think it's important.
Well, Bimmy said that was a great answer, so thank you. And Jimmy had another question asking, is learning scales overrated or is it important? What's your opinion on that?
I would say it's definitely important, because I mean, in my humble opinion, again, everything you will ever learn theory wise is always going to relate to the major scale. I think most people would relate everything to scale, whether it's, you're doing the super Locrian scale, altered scale, it all some way or another comes back to learning that first major scale. In terms of using the scales, it depends what kind of style you want to do. If it's maybe a jazz type, soloing type. I'm not an expert on it, but I'll dabble in it a little bit now and then. I think I personally wasted a lot of time. This is just me, thinking about scales too much in regards to learning jazz type things. It was more arpeggio based, phrases, and I kind of think of it this way. Like a lot of us guitar players will start off and will learn the pentatonic scale, which is great, hours and hours of fun, and still play it. And don't forget, at one point, or for a while, you didn't really know what you're doing with that pentatonic scale. You didn't have any licks, you didn't know what you're doing with that either.
Just played up and
It's
down.
only because you learn solo that you use those scales. So, for example, I don't know, whether it's Rolling Stones or AC/DC or whatever, it's like, oh, right, okay, right, I'm going to steal a little bit of this, and I'm going to steal a little bit of that. And sometimes what can happen, in my experience, this is definitely from my own personal experience as well, is I'd get interested in jazz and bebop, and it's like, right, well, they're using this scale here, and now they're using this scale. Maybe they're using this scale on the 2, now they're using this scale on the 5, and it's like, okay, I understand the idea of using this scale here and this scale there. It sounds like shit. It doesn't sound like a jazz player at all. So again, it's got to go back to learning phrases, I think, and breaking down what they're doing. A lot of times you'll hear it could be up an arpeggio, down a scale, up an arpeggio, down a scale. Little things like that. So in answer to the question, scales are definitely important, but I wouldn't. They're not the be all and end all. They are vital, but
Yeah, I think I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree. I think one of the most important things to learn outside of scales, obviously, scales are a great place to start. Circle of fifths, so you know how to move between keys, so you can add more interest. You know what fits where, to build your phrases and to be able to move the line, where you want to go. I think that's one of my favorite tools of use from theory.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
That was well received answer from the comments too. By the way, that was thank you for that answer. Our viewers like it.
Yeah, Jimmy, holy shit, dude! I appreciate that. One hell of an answer.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, don't forget as well. Like us as guitar players, we're lucky and we're cursed in the sense of when we are transcribing, we've got a middle C in 5 different places. If I want to transcribe a piano line, it's like, well, and I'm using my ears, I've now got to figure out, well, what's the best fingering for me? Am I going to do it in this spot or this spot or this spot? And then a lot of times it's a lot of trial and error. It can be very frustrating. Like I've transcribed Oscar Peterson lines. I love Oscar Peterson, you know, amazing player. And it'll be like, right, I really want to learn that line. I'll go to do it, and it's like, well, does it make sense to play it here or does it make sense to play it there? And then I'll get halfway through the lick thinking, oh, I've got it now. And then it's like, well, now this part doesn't make sense. How am I going to
Right.
make particular note relate to? Am I going to have to do this huge jump along the neck now to
Yeah.
accommodate that note? Or am I going to have to shift the whole thing up?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's things like that.
Or you start overthinking the timbre of the string, you know, like if it
Yeah,
sounds good
exactly.
lower on the third string or higher on the fourth string, and which guitar are you playing it on? You know, like, well, it sounds on a single coil, it sounds better here, and on a humbucker, it sounds better
Yeah.
here.
And we've been going through that with some of our writing, like playing through a song, and like one in particular, Matt was like, "Hey, why don't you try playing that on the low string, different timbre to it?" So I did.
I keep waiting for these assholes to kick me out of the band because I just show up to the band practice and I challenge every idea. I'm like, oh, what if we do it this way?
Yeah, well, and it's working. I like the fact too. Last night we were sitting around a writing session. Last night had a new song that I had put some lyrics down, but didn't have any music to, and we're just kind of talking. What do we want to do with it? How do we want to do it? And I'm fucking around on the bass, and all of a sudden just kind of doing a thing, and Matt's like,
I thought he was playing the riff of the song.
What was
I didn't
that? Is
realize
that the
you were
riff of
just
the song?
screwing around.
Like, no, I was just messing around. Y'all are talking, and I'm just kind of boop. And next thing we know, we got a song. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's an erroneous thing that happens at a bullshit writing session.
Right.
That's what it was.
with beers involved and
Yeah.
4 friends, one of whom can't play the drums currently.
But that's it's a beautiful thing how that can come about so easily, though, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get the right people and the right mindset together. Yeah,
Yeah.
good things happen.
Well, my friend, we've kept you up late. And we appreciate the hell out of this opportunity to chat with you.
Yeah, it's been great.
If there's anything you want to chat about that we haven't covered, let me know, and we'll keep you on for a few seconds. Otherwise, we are perfectly fine to let you go and just say thank you, or extend our utmost gratitude to you, and wish you the best. Thank you for being here.
My absolute pleasure. I mean, it's always nice to chat about, guitar and,
Yeah.
the shortcomings, of me personally, and, maybe that other players might feel as well. But I love talking about, like we were chatting about transcribing and, my experiences and hearing other people's experiences. Yeah, I think you found out now that I will ramble on a little bit. But that's okay, right?
It was great.
Our entire show is based around rambling, so it's good to have rambling with good content, and we this happened to work great. So,
Well, no, thank you so much for having me.
well, we'll be in touch, but you can go ahead and end your call, and we'll keep on going. But I'll be in touch later, and thank you so much for spending the evening with us, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. We'll do it again in the future, maybe.
Absolutely.
I hope so.
All right. Take
All right.
care.
Cheers,
Take
lad.
care.
Cheers. Good times.
That was a good talk. And some good conversation. Good conversation through the chat with our guest as well. So
Yeah, man, he's such a real guy. And of course that's always true. It's no matter who you're talking to, we're all people.
yeah,
And that's it's something that is occasionally difficult to or it's easy to lose track of that.
yeah,
And it's good to have these conversations to bring it all back down to, like, ultimately you're a person who decided to pick up the guitar. Why? And
yeah.
yeah.
And that we all go through the same stuff. You could be the biggest celebrity in the world and you still have at least occasional issues with, oh no, are people going to like this? Or, any of that imposter syndrome kind of sneaking in. But
Yeah.
I mean, you just got to go for it.
Hell yeah.
You just got to go for it. So
Well, cool. I don't have anything else.
no, nothing else.
Not
You don't want
really.
to talk about what's on your bench these days or any of that?
What's on? No, we're gonna save that for next month.
All right.
Yeah, we had a good interview. Why spoil it?
We got a good secret coming up, so
Yeah, we do. I don't want to spoil it too
that'll
soon.
be fun.
We'll interview the T-Rex next month.
All right.
Cool, man.
Sounds good. Well, Everybody, thank you for joining us, Jimmy, Bimmy.
Jimmy, Bimmy, anyone else who happened to be
Whomever
there.
else may be on.
Thank
We
you.
had a few folks on.
Giant thanks to Nathaniel Murphy.
Yes,
and
thank you, Nathaniel. It was great to meet
yeah.
you. And we'll definitely have him on again.
Cool.
And sharing some licks next time.
Absolutely. We'll do it during the daytime so the neighbors can't complain.
Yeah. But don't forget to fret less.
And rock more.
We'll see you next time.